Good morning, good evening, whatever it is, wherever you are YouTube. It's that time of the month again. It's the Motovlog Alliance's monthly Motovlog challenge, and this month's an interesting one. It is to basically go out and make a video going around and seeing some of the sights and areas of your hometown or your town of your choice. So, as I mentioned in one of the previous videos, I was actually born in a small town called Bedford, which is about 25 miles down the road. But for the last decade I've been living in what we call the new city of Milton Keynes, although new city is not a term that gets used a lot. And it's a very interesting place. There's a lot people say they don't like about it, but the reality is it's actually a very good place to live. And it's got a few interesting features, so we'll go through a few of those. About 50 years ago, in fact 50 years ago this year, there was a commission set up. It was decided that living in and around London was becoming prohibitively expensive, and therefore a commission was set up to lay out a new city designed originally to hold about 250,000 inhabitants. This commission found an area of land with a few small villages in Buckinghamshire, 45 miles north of London, and Milton Keynes was basically put on the map and produced. There's a number of small villages, and some of the estates give the names to them, such as Loughton and places like that, which were actually villages in their own right, but have become estates within Loughton. So you get an interesting mix. You get to see sort of brand new modern housing estates that are 15 to 20 years old, and they're interspersed with old, very old sometimes, buildings inside them as well. But as we go through, this is the bottom end of the main city centre, and obviously we've got a railway station where a main line runs right through to Euston in London, which of course was critical for a commuter town, and that way a rail line goes all the way up to Glasgow. You can get an express train up to Glasgow from there, which is very handy. And the city centre itself features some interesting architecture. This whole area we're coming through now is one of the more recent developments, and this was one called the Hub, which we're coming up to in a moment. Also, this building to our left, the Jaipur, was the largest purpose-built Indian restaurant in the UK at the time it was built, and it is still one of the most impressive. So coming up now, we're just approaching a development called the Hub that's there on the left, and there's some more of the buildings associated with it, with the Sainsbury's supermarket on the right. And the Hub is one of the newest parts of the city centre. It was designed to extend the original city centre down and give it a bit of a wider reach. It's mainly populated by hotels and restaurants, and it's become a very valid part, useful part of the city itself. So general transport links are great, parking is ample, although it can be a little expensive at times, but there's good leisure facilities as well through the city. One of the key Milton Keynes landmarks in the early days was the Point Cinema, which is coming up on our left. Now it's very hard to spot and is unfortunately largely disused. It's virtually impossible to see now, and sadly is earmarked for demolition. But at the time that it was built, it was the first proper multiplex cinema in the country, and because of its futuristic pyramid design, it was actually used as the setting for a number of kids' TV programmes and things like that. But it kind of fell out of use because on our right, in the year 2000, a building called the Escape was built, and that was a full indoor real snow dome. So in there you've got a ski slope, numerous restaurants, you've got a large cinema, massive amounts of leisure facilities, and it was located so you've got a Five Guys burger there for those of you from the States that fancy that sort of thing, bars, restaurants, everything. And coming up on the left we have the theatre district, and this was all produced. Milton Keynes is one of the leading theatrical towns in the UK. We've got a fantastic theatre here, and very popular. It's one of the best theatres outside of Broadway and outside of London. So a lot of people come here. It's a great location. You can go to the theatre, then either go over towards the Escape for your meal, or you can go and see a film or whatever, and you really can plan a whole day there very easily. But if you're not into theatres and films and things like that, and you don't want to go skiing and snowboarding, there is also something else in Milton Keynes that's a bit of a jewel in its crown. But we'll head over there now. So those of you that like your sports a little on the colder side, Milton Keynes also is home to an ice hockey team called Milton Keynes Lightning, and It's actually a brilliant team. It's one of the better teams in the country. It's just been promoted actually. There's a couple of leagues or several leagues in the UK, one of which is called the English Premier League, which is the league we're in and very near the top again, and the other one is actually called the Elite League. And this season Milton Keynes Lightning have actually moved up into the Elite League, so we're going to have a hard job on our hands to keep up appearances there. It's a very, very, very tough league. And in fact, members of the Elite League do often go on to the Olympic squads. But this is the ice rink here. It's a purpose-built facility. It's just been completely redeveloped, and that is home of Milton Keynes Lightning. So right next to the railway station, which is absolutely brilliant for visiting fans. So it's one of the best bits about Milton Keynes, as you can get a really good ice hockey match in there. At the moment, prices in the tickets are quite reasonable, although they are going to be going up when we move into the Elite League. But you're looking at around £20 for admission to a sporting event, which is frankly pretty much as good as they get over this part of the world. We've got a couple of imported players that have come from Eastern Europe and Slovakia, and even a couple of Canadian players as well. So we do have the good talent in the team, and it is going all the way, which is great. The other thing with Milton Keynes is we have a lot of faster speed limit roads, like these are all 70 limits, which actually means on a bike you can make really good progress legally. We're heading back into the city centre now. There's actually another unusual factor with Milton Keynes. Aside from the fact you may have noticed there's a lot of trees around here, Milton Keynes is actually the greenest city in the UK and one of the greenest cities in Europe. There was at one point an estimated 44 trees per person, so there's vast areas of flat land, and most of Milton Keynes is actually quite low level development. The original brief was the building should be no higher than the tree line, though as you can see now that's kind of gone out the window. But the historical significance, of course, in the UK there's things called listed buildings, and a listed building is basically a building that is deemed to be of historical significance, and it has either very severe restrictions or cannot be modified. And there's various grades of listed building, grade 1, grade 2, so forth. A grade 1 listed building absolutely must not be modified in any way, shape or form. It's very strict, and it's grade 2. But Milton Keynes, one of the main factors was its shopping centre, and it's one of the things that people really came here for in the earlier days. If you're a fan of cheesy pop music, this building on the right might be familiar to you. This is the Milton Keynes Shopping Centre, and it's actually the youngest listed building in the UK. If you've ever seen any of the work of Cliff Richard, and you're a fan of that kind of cheese and sort of that kind of pop music from the early 80s, you might recognise this building. This was actually where the Wired for Sound video was shot, and then Cliff Richard and all his cronies were skating along inside this building. But it's, like I say, the youngest listed building in the UK, and was actually opened by Margaret Thatcher of all people. But it's still one of the key sections of Milton Keynes and one of the biggest draws, aside from the leisure facilities, that bring people here. Away from the modern side of Milton Keynes, the older sections are still very historically significant as well. Milton Keynes, when it was built, like I said before, swallowed up several smaller towns and villages. And one of the ones that was swallowed up was Bletchley, and of course Bletchley Park is famous as the home really of a huge amount of wartime effort. And that was where the Enigma code was cracked. So that's Bletchley Park is a fantastic, real interesting historical monument and general museum, and worth spending a lot of time in. We've also got water sports. There's Willen Lake, which has a rope pool, water ski, sort of a run, I don't know what you call them really, but is over there, so you can water ski on Willen Lake, which is just down the road there. And there's lots of old pubs, and it's really something for everyone here. Incidentally, those two shafts on the X-Skate building, a lot of people think they're something to do with either the ventilation for the snow system or air conditioning. They're actually staircases, but you don't notice it from inside because of the way the building's arranged. So there you go, there's Milton Keynes. There's a rough overview of the area. If you like these videos, do hit the like and subscribe button. And if you're on Motovlog Alliance, do hit the voting button and vote for this video. Once again, Motovlog Alliance have a section on Discord, so if you're on Discord, get on there. And also go and visit them at www.motovlogalliance.com.